Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. We think of counselors as conciliators, yet even they, after the clients are gone, are not above arguing. Here are some popular debates. First, regarding advice giving. Here's an argument in favor of giving advice. Clients don't always know what's best for them. Let's say a hard-driving parent expects both kids to be as hard-driving as he is, but one of the kids is much more laid back. But the father insists, "My family value is to push." Is there no room for the counselor to offer advice that an individualized approach rather than a one size fits the entire family is wise? Well, and here is the con argument, the argument against giving advice if you're a counselor. Even if you're right, the chance of that person following your advice, let alone following it enduringly, is small. And your opposition will decrease his trust in you, make him feel you don't believe in him. The chances are greater he'll terminate working with you than following your advice. The next thing that counselors can argue about is whether to first address past trauma or to move forward right away. Here is the argument for starting with past trauma. In most cases, if a person experienced trauma in the past, it helps to process it, if only briefly. That can make it easier for the client to then move forward. Here is the argument for starting directly by helping the client move forward. Too often, long before the client started working with you, he or she has processed the trauma ad nauseum. Any insight or catharsis derived didn't help in moving forward. Worse, continuing to revisit the trauma keeps it top of mind, making it more difficult for the client to move forward. Better to briefly acknowledge how painful the trauma was, but then move right away to discussing goals and baby steps toward achieving them. The next thing the clients might argue about is to whether to go for a dramatic or incremental change. Here's the argument for going for a dramatic change. Most clients don't have the patience or money to aim for only incremental change. They're in counseling to change their life. Sure, if going for the home run fails, you can scale back to the incremental, but you should first go for the major change. For example, making an angry person a circumspect one, an unemployed person a well-employed one. Here's the argument for being incremental. Going for the home run is just not realistic for most people. It's well acknowledged that people are heavily a product of their genes and early environment. Those tend to be an upper limit on how much change is likely. You wouldn't expect to work on a Volkswagen Bug so it might beat a Porsche. You'd help the bug to be the best bug it could be. Same with most people. It's tempting for counselors to want to be a hero, to hit that grand slam. But your chances are too great of striking out, and it's the client, not you, who will suffer the consequences. Another thing that counselors argue about is whether these are substance abuse counselors, whether they should focus on harm reduction or stopping. Here's the argument in favor of harm reduction. People who come to substance abuse counseling are rarely the type that can stop cold turkey. Usually it's better to ask them how they could most easily cut down. For example, keeping alcohol and weed out of the house, thereby requiring them to make more effort to get it, or asking the client when he or she most and least enjoys doing it. Here's the argument for going cold turkey. Moderation requires the client to make the no decision again and again. Cold turkey requires only one choice, making that decision one time. Of course, that one decision should be supplemented by check-ins. In the beginning, maybe as often as hourly, as the 12-step programs recommend. Also have the client have substitute activities at the ready, calling a friend, playing a video game, writing the great American novel, all of which are hard to do when you're under the influence. Another thing that counselors might argue about is whether to be in private practice or employed by someone else. An argument in favor of private practice: it is such a pleasure to see who you want, that is, to work with who you want, when you want, in the environment you want. As a counselor, you should know that control is among the keys to feeling good about your life. Being in private practice gives you control. Here is the argument for being employed by an organization. Few practitioners are good enough to be able to make a good living without spending lots of time on marketing and administrivia like billing. And the typical counselor doesn't appreciate nor is good at either one of those. Another thing that counselors might argue about is how much to charge. Here's the argument for charging high with a sliding scale. No one gets rich as a counselor, so you should charge as much as the market can bear. Also, charging a lot builds clients' confidence in you, which is key to their making the most of your efforts. It's sad but true, but many people operate from the belief that you get what you pay for. That all said, you can have a sliding scale so clients that you're likely to really help can work with you even if they can't pay your regular rate. On the other hand, here is the argument for charging a moderate rate. I want my clients to know I'm in it to help, not for the money. No, there's no need to charge a bargain basement rate, but I want to be in the middle of the pack. With regard to a sliding scale, if prospective clients know I slide, too many will request a discount when they don't need it. Besides, I'd rather use that discount money by donating it to my favorite charity. And finally, some counselors argue about how confrontive to be. Here's the argument for being more confrontive. When clients stay stuck in denial of a core but ameliorable weakness, confrontation is wise. That's also true when a client consistently doesn't do their homework. Sure, the first time you probably don't want to be confrontive. Rather you'll ask why and use the answer for therapeutic purposes. But after 2 or 3 times, your client will benefit from you saying, "We can't make enough progress if you don't do your homework." Sometimes I've even got good results by saying, "If you don't do your homework, I'm not going to work with you." Here's an argument for being less confrontive. As a counselor, you're usually dealing with people who are fragile and or have enough going on in their interior or external life that confrontation merely makes you just another nag. You can bet that the kind of person who doesn't do their homework gets nagged, threatened, and punished enough already in their work and their personal life. Your job as a counselor is to be accepting and gently help the client to move forward. You need to control yourself. In sum, alas, counseling is still in its adolescence. There's much room for well-founded disagreement. Part of the fun and art of counseling is making our best guesses as to what will work with that client and remaining open to changing if something doesn't work. Until we have the science of counseling, we must accept, indeed embrace, the art of counseling. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.